Well, welcome back to Off-Road Worldwide Online. Just took a little breather there. Back with it now, though, and we've got another guest with us. I'd like to introduce you to somebody who I remember from many, many years ago racing out there. We used to call him the Red Baron. This is the man that has turned the fortunes of the All-Wheel Drive Club round in the past few years. It is, of course, Mr. Richard Maior Barron. Richard, welcome to Off-Road World Online.
Hi, Diana. Thank you very much for the invitation.
My pleasure, believe me. I'm so grateful for your patience as well. As I say, this is a very new platform, very new system, and we do have our teething troubles with it, but hopefully we're going to smooth it out as we go. And it's Giles knows what he's doing. Giles, say hello to Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, Giles. Don't forget my appointment at 2:30 next week for the dentist.
Oh, Richard, it's one thing that I can say is that you know, as I say, I know you from many, many moons ago racing with the All Drive Club, and you competed. It was always a laugh when you were around. It was always a giggle, and you always brought a bit of sunshine to the party and a bit of a laugh and a joke. So, but you were also, you know, you went out there and you went for it when you were driving your fabulous little Red Baron. And it was really great to see. Now, you take a little breather and disappeared off the scene for a few years, and then all of a sudden you appear again, and this time as the new chairman of the All Drive Club, out of the blue, almost from nowhere. I was absolutely delighted. I thought, well, if anybody's going to turn around, there's the man. And you came in rather sort of like a bull into the proverbial china shop and really grabbed it by the scruff of the neck. But it was really struggling, and I think it's fair to say that. I don't think anybody will be crossing me for saying that. It was struggling. It was going through some very dire times, like many, many other clubs too. What on earth made you take on the one job that even when a club is flying high, few people really want, and when a club's nearly on its knees, really, really don't want? I know Mike Arthur and a few others was valiantly motoring on with it, trying to keep it going. What on earth made you take it on, Richard?
Diana, thank you very much. First of all, I do like the fun aspect of the club. I had followed it. Yes, I was away from the club for 17 years. It's an awful long time, but I was following it in the background, and I was seeing. I don't like to use the word. A slight demise would be the way to look at it. In not the way the club was being run, because it was still being run professionally, and you know, I still thank the guys who held on to it for all those times, and they did a wonderful job. When I came back on board in June 16, 17, I just looked at the way the camaraderie had slowly gone, and it was a bit deceptive, and I didn't like that aspect. I thought, well, where is it all gone? Nobody talking to each other. That we should all be as one, and there was fractions in the club itself, and we all know those, and it became quite public on occasions, and I'm not overly pleased with that, and I had to slowly wind my way in. And yes, something you said, a bull in a china shop. Many years ago, when I was in the Royal Navy, yes, I was known as, I had a management technique the same as Genghis Khan. You either step up or step out. It was as simple as that, and I put that into every business I've been in, especially in the financial services industry, which was cutthroat. I mean, you know, I came in as a nobody in that, and shot to the top, and that frightened people as well. But so it wasn't a technique I was proud of using coming in, and I had to find out who all the players were inside the committee and also on the peripheral. And I knew from start to finish I had to be quite narrow-minded, as in the information that I was taking in from others. I didn't want the gossip. I was not interested in gossip. It had that was as far from anything as you can imagine that I was interested in. I didn't want to know who was fighting with who. I just wanted to see where everybody was, and that took almost 12 months. And the amount of times in that 12 months that I had to seek solace in other people, and you know exactly where I'm going with that.
Totally understandable. And I still come back to this, Richard. what made you want to do it? What drove you to do it, to take it on? Because it was not an easy job. You know, the people who were still there were working tirelessly to hold it all together.
Absolutely.
And we all know that the whole sport's gone through the doldrums a little bit. You know, I think that a lot of the clubs have had a bit of a struggle, and some of the biggest championships too. So what drove you to come back into the sport and take on
Momentum.
one of the most difficult jobs?
Pure momentum. I wanted to see the all-wheel drive club back where it belonged, and that was at the top of this sport. We're not quite there. We will get there. We have got good competition throughout the other clubs, and they're doing a fine job, and well done to them. But I also realised there was a gap, and quite a large gap, and that was the gap in where were we going to get all the new recruits from? Where were the entry levels? We've got, and as I said, I keep coming back to this divide. There was that divide between the top end racing drivers who were phenomenally good and still are phenomenally good, and the mid range, and then the entry level. And all I kept hearing for quite a while was, well, there's no point in us coming on board because we're never going to be able to compete. Now, something I always go back to, and this is back to the bare roots, when I built my very first race car, and it was a Series 2A, and it was a jalopy of a thing, and I paid 50 quid for it and built it. There was only one person in my mind that I knew on day one when I took that car out I was going to beat, and that was the 5 times British champion Bruce Tidwell. And it stayed in my mind, and I still laugh about it today. That what was inside me to think that? How did I think that? But moving on forward to all them years later, I'm thinking, actually, it's not wrong to think like that. It should be a level playing ground, and you know, and the courses are the things that level out the ground for us.
Yeah.
And I noticed that, I mean, the first event I went back to after 17 years, Ebervale, 17 entries. Good God, I was expecting 105, 110. And it shocked me to the bones to see how we'd lost our way slightly. And I had to think, we need to get the figures back up again. We're never going to get back up to the hundreds. And if we do, you know, I'll retire such a happy man. But, you know, a 10% increase over the last 12 months and 10% increase on that, I'm happy with. And as long as we can keep moving forward in those percentages, we'll get back to where we need to be. So that's why I wanted to take it. And I wanted to get us back at the ground level, and work from the basics back up again. And I was accused, and quite openly, and why not? I'm allowed to be, that I was going to take the club backwards. But my argument has always been the one argument. 20 years ago, we had 110 starters. Trials, we had 100 people at the entry line. Why then, 20 years later, do we only have 40s and 50s? So if I'm going to take us backwards, hey, have I got it wrong or have I got it right?
Well, there you go. It is true. The other thing that must have changed in the time you had away are the actual vehicles themselves, because back in the, I mean, I'd already retired from racing when you came into it. Honest to goodness, it's so frightening,
exactly.
isn't it? And that was only because I realised that I actually talk quicker than I drive anyway. I mean, trials, I love my trialling. Team recovery, fantastic. Comp safaring, it really wasn't my bag, to be fair. So that's how I do it. But the vehicles, I mean, I had my little old Series 1 leaf sprung, and I went, banging about, and I thought I could beat Bruce Tidwell.
Exactly.
Don't make me laugh, honestly. But it's true. And you have these gods, Pete Rowe or people like that. You have these gods, and you think, oh, maybe I could just be, you know, and they, if something happened to them, you know, that was the only way you were ever even going to get close to them. And even then you hadn't got a hope. But it was a beautiful aim. And you could see these people at the front who were starting to shift things on the design and development front, just trying new things out. And just, you know, Guy Smith, even then, was trying something really radical things. Trevor Milner, some of these great builders, designers. So for you to come back in 17 years later, the difference in vehicle technology must be quite extraordinary. It must be quite eye-opening to see how things have moved on.
The biggest change I noticed, and it was quite astounding, was purely shock-absorbent technology.
Yes.
It's unbelievable where that has gone. and the change, even now racing in the 110 with nitrogen shocks on there, is unbelievable. And how we raced those leaf springs, I don't know how we did it, but we did, and that's I suppose that's given me the tenacity now to move it forward and say, yeah, technology is always going to move forward. And I'm proud of not only our safari side, but our trial side as well. The technology that goes into some of the proto class is so beautiful, and I love all of the trials as that's where I started, in drive rounds and then trials.
Likewise, yeah.
The trials and safaris have moved so far forward from 17 years ago. It's unbelievable, and it took me by shock. I've got used to it now, but still, I love seeing it.
One of the drivers we're going to hopefully be speaking to sort of during the season as well is, of course, one of the highlights of the All Drive Club, one of our favourite drivers, Steve Grogan, and Triple X Bandit, who flies the flag out in Europe with the European trials. And we saw all that coming up through, the days of Tony Parrott, when we used to have the French-style events, and the beautiful Ray Kempster was part of that as well. And we set up these demonstrations at Trentham Gardens, things like this, and we used to show these different styles and the French monkeys. But the French monkey system, where you've got to bounce on the outside of the car, really dangerous, but really good fun.
Yeah.
And we thought, where will it all go? And Steve has followed it, and we've seen his car develop with the European trialers. And I think trials is something that, again, disappeared a little bit off radar. And the quantum leap was that when the fiddle brakes came out, things really changed then as well. But now seeing something like Steve Grogan's car, it is absolutely beautiful. It's a stunning piece of kit, and where that car can't go, it's nobody's business. So again, likewise, from the days of trialling 17 or so years ago, that must be startling to see where they've moved forward.
Absolutely. Jumping around a little bit, this is where, when I came back in, I noticed there was a fraction between the 10-gate originals and this new 5-gate fandangled thing that had been brought in from Europe. That was the Devil's Day, and it was the Devil's own,
the Devil's
talent.
Work.
And I thought, I won't go where I was going with that. I'll stop. It was phenomenal, and I've been to all of these over the last 2 years, and they've got a place. They really have got a place. The 5-gate, sure. I actually think it's tremendous. It's absolutely fantastic. The 10-gate, it was never going to lose its place within this club, and we've got to build it up again. Whether we can amalgamate the 10 and the 5 together to make a new type of way forward for trialling, we'll see. The guys who are on the ground, Dave Webb, Lee Pritchard, Jeff Tucker and Jonathan Bird, are all looking at this and have turned, over the last 12 months, have turned trials around for the club. It was in a terrible condition 12 months ago, and I was so proud at the last AGM to know how well it had performed in the following 12 months. So we're on good footing, and these guys are looking at the ways forward and being innovative. They really are, and there is a place for everybody, from the basic car. The difference now is the guy who, like me back then, had a Series 3 that he could drive to work and then go and play at the weekend, is not quite there anymore. The vehicles that you're driving to work are the 90s, the 110s. They are expensive vehicles, and you're not going to bash them about or try and take them somewhere that you could possibly get them bashed about. So this is where we've had to get back to basics and understand where our clientele, where our competitors are coming from, and what
where the entry level is, and where the entry level is as well for them.
Absolutely, and it's all down to that entry level. Going back to Steve Grogan, if you do manage to interview him, please don't ask him to explain 5-gate rules.
I'm definitely going to.
He did it at our 50th, and it has to be the funniest part of a video I've ever, and I still laugh at him about it. Well, you start at the start, go round the 5Ks, and then you come out the finish. So thank you, Steve Grogan, for your work for the All Wheel Drive Club on that one.
Erudite description.
We have got phenomenal drivers, European world-class drivers in trials, but I also every day look at where the next person. 1,000 years ago, I stood up at one of our AGMs, and I said then, we've always got to look at the back seat of all of the 4x4s driving around, because they are the next members for this club.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Appeal to them.
Yeah, it's a lovely way of putting it.
More appealing in our entry level. Hence the reason the Freelander trophies come on board with us this year. That was something we were talking. I knew there was something missing going forward for our entry level, and I was looking at where entry levels were in Safari, and really, and that's really about where the entry level is. Freelanders, 90s and 110s. They're too expensive to compete in now, and they're worth shipping abroad rather than competing in them to get money out of them. So there was a gap, and the Freelanders obviously had nowhere to race last year, or they did, but they didn't. So we decided that this Freelander trophy would be put forward, and it's going to work. I know it's going to work. We've already got our entries up for our first event, and it's looking good.
Well, we've got, hopefully Philippa Tennant's going to be keeping us up to date with it through the season as well. She's all lined up, ready around to go. Of course, one of the favourite navigators. She will really push you on from the navigator seat. And her and James James Tennant, of course, make a terrific team. And navigating is another crucial art that we need a little bit of help with, and new people coming in. And people like Philippa, I'm sure, will be able to explain it really well as we go through the season, and maybe get more people interested in doing that to a higher level, because it's great. And
if she got Claire Goulding, I'd be over the moon.
A long-suffering Claire. Is she going to sit with you again this year? Is she seriously getting back in with you this year, Richard?
Who knows? We argue
Claire,
every time afterwards.
If you need to talk, Claire, come and see me. We can, we'll talk you through it. Honestly,
yeah, exactly. The only time ever was when she realised we had serious competition at Walters with James and Philippa. She stepped up to the mark.
They are a dynamite team, though, those two.
They are fantastic.
I was going to say as well that, talking about entry level, there's, for some reason, it has upped a little. Like you say, drive the old Land Rover to work and then go out and trial it and all the rest of it. And we all did that. We all had a road-going vehicle that we used to go and knock 7 bells out of at the weekend and really enjoy. But you get some of the younger crews coming now as well, and we saw the current reigning champion, Alex Papotas, of course. The side-by-sides, the Can-Ams, these vehicles are great, but they're not cheap, compared to what we would have called cheap. It's still a good investment to actually get into one of those things. So I think we're seeing people teaming up and, as I say, getting into the navigator seat, because that's now the entry level, is to get on board with somebody else and then work your way up through there. So you've got the experience to go out and drive something faster, a little bit more of a weapon than the vehicles we used to start with.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, anybody getting in that passenger seat in any of the vehicles have got to be respected. They all do a fine job, no matter which way they tell you whether it should be right or left, and it should be the opposite way around. It's irrelevant. But yeah, getting them in, getting them involved, and getting younger navigators on board as well. I'm talking to some very good friend of mine, Julian Atkins and his son. I'm hoping that they will come on board this year, and they will help. They'll come on and team up with myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's keep it going, and we need to nobble Philippa, really. having spoken with her dad for quite a long time.
I'll distract her with get on the film quick. We need to get James off the start line with her, so that'll sort it out.
We are diverting slightly, but Philippa, the last round at Walters, James was driving, and they said to me, "I've got a target on my back," which was great fun. We had an amazing day with them at Walters. I mean, it was very competitive, very close, with 3 seconds going into our 6th run between the two of us, and that was tight. But I always remember Philippa. They must have been 500 metres away from us in Parc Fermé, and on the first run, Philippa jumped out the car, and all we could hear across the pits was, "Yes, yes, that's it, we're ahead of him already." And I just thought, from that distance, she's not competitive at all, is she?
Well, when you're chasing down the big cheese,
It's fun, and as I said when I came back, the chosen vehicle, people will think, "Well, what did you buy that for?" Well, it was a chosen vehicle on purpose. It was in the budget. It was the £3,000 racer budget, which I looked at, but also it was production class, and that's where I knew there was a gap. And people laugh because Was there anybody else in production class in my first year? No. Was there in the second year? Yes. And now in the third year? Yes. And, you know, we're showing them the way. I say that, you know, laughingly, because they're hot on my tail. And James Tennant, quite rightly, over the last few weeks, has been laughing with me and saying, I've got the target on my back. Good. If that's what it takes to get people into this sport, I'll wear a bigger and bigger and bigger target. And come on, bring it on. I'd love it, you know. Get the guys racing, and the small races in between. You know, there's us competing against others, and in the mid range that they're racing against each other, and there's little groups within each other all racing each other, and it's fantastic for the competition. And you said about turning it around. You go into Park Ferming and people are smiling and laughing and they're talking to each other. It's become close again. You can ask anybody for any parts you want. Any back in the day, you know, we used to take it off our own cars to hand it over to people to race. Fantastic. Let's get back there. We're nearly there.
It is really great. And also, I think, I've just heard in the news, I think it was Richard Bell who posted, because we're all on Facebook, everybody's got to join on Facebook, it's great fun. But Richard Bell had posted that a little while ago now, probably a week ago, that Jenson Button is actually going to be taking part in the Mint 400, which is phenomenal. But we see quite often, since when the rally crews come over, Carlos Sainz, people like that, you know, all sorts of people have come across and given off-road a go, whether it's been in the Dakar, they seem to go right at the top end and go for the big ones first. So we are seeing people sort of coming across, and I thought that was a great bit of news to hear the Formula One actually have noticed an off-road. I mean, it's an American side, but it's still, they're seeing off-road as maybe the place that you don't take on lightly, but if you've got the adrenaline buzz and you do something like Formula One or World Rally, and even Colin McRae did the Dakar, and he was building cars to go on and compete. So, you know, they see it as kind of the step beyond, I think. And I think it puts us in that little range beyond all other sports. And I think that still holds true.
Yeah, we're not the poor man's sport. We are there, and we're just another aspect of this racing fraternity. You're absolutely right, and going forward, where we do, we're invited to participate at the rally day at Castle Combe, and I went there last year, and it was interesting talking to amateur rally drivers who said the first thing was they couldn't understand our entry fee being so inexpensive in comparison to them. Well, that's because we're not using the forest stages. But I think there will be more and more of a crossover as rallying starts getting more and more expensive. I expect we'll see quite a few people start moving over to us.
I think that's quite interesting you should say that, actually. Giles might have a little photo because Will Overton also posted a picture of the very latest Suzuki Jimny. And yeah, now, Will, I think you're absolutely right. He said, is it wrong to like this? No, it really isn't. And I think I actually really like it. I loved in the blurb where it said that it's got a retro design feel about it. And you look at it and you think, oh, hello, I see a little bit of a Defender in there somewhere.
Exactly.
You do. And it actually says that it's very capable off-road. It's designed for, real off-road capability, so much so that it's got the corners to the wings so that in off-road situations you can actually see exactly where your wings are. And I thought to myself, I think somebody somewhere's missed a bit of a trick. I think it's fabulous. I'm not. So a couple of people did say the grill, maybe not quite so sure. And Giles mentioned, what did you say? You thought it looks a little bit like Giles?
Humvee.
Yeah, Humvee, that's it. But it's definitely got that Defender feel. And JLR, you didn't half miss a trick, chaps. You didn't half miss a trick. That is... I think it's cracking, I've got to be honest.
They've woken it up. They've woken up retro. Great.
Yeah, I thought that was so cheeky and so brilliant.
I mean, from the back, as I think I said to you, I mean, you see the Zebra coming out of the factory every now and then to do some road testing. And that the Defender is the Zebra is obviously the Defender. But my God, yeah, I mean, they did. It could be that in disguise, really. But good for them. Yeah, I think
no. This is it. This is Suzuki's latest, and it's just. I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
They always were a very good off-road capable vehicle.
Exactly.
And I just love the way they've shaped the front bumper to stop you And then there are some great designs in there, and it's not going to be one of those that people actually look at and go, you're going to look at and go, why? Give it a year or so, and I don't think people will be asking why anymore.
It's very clear why, and I think they realise that the demise of the Defender as we knew it had upset so many people. They've just stepped very nicely into that little space and done it really well, actually.
Yeah,
I don't dislike it.
Somebody needs to have a word with JLL. They've just announced all their closures. They've just announced all their, their layoffs. They've just announced their sales fails. Well, hey, wake up! I wonder why.
Do you know, it's funny,
give us an entry-level vehicle and we'll be back on your case again.
Exactly, precisely. Up at Gaydon last year, we did the 70-line mark in the sand, and we said, this is where it all changes. And, you had these two iconic British brands, Land Rover and Jaguar. You had the elegance and the power of Jaguar. You had the capability and the toughness and the adaptability of the Land Rover. You put those two great names together, you get Jaguar Land Rover. It can't get any better than that. And we somehow or other, it just didn't get embraced as that. And I'll never understand why. But we did that with Dave Mitchell. We had everybody there. It was wonderful. But there is a film in the archives of Off-Road Worldwide as well that shows the Gaydon interviews and our 70th baby and all. We had the whole thing going on. Because we knew that things... Even we knew on the ground that things were about to change in a big way, in a really big way, and it'll never be the same again. And I think this is a sea change. And, there's a bit of me thinks actually it's really exciting because some of the new developments coming through now from off-road. And when you see Suzuki Jimny, so many other people have already latched onto the fact that that's what we need as a little really capable off-roader. So I think it's going to turn full circle. We'll get the vehicles back again because people love them. So, but All-Wheel Drive Club, going back to where we started, Richard.
Oh yes, I remember that now. Because,
there we go. With the All-Wheel Drive Club, of course, anything any vehicle goes. So maybe that's going to be one of the vehicles we're going to see coming into it.
It'd be lovely to see it. I mean, at that price. You could bring it off. I mean, at that price, you're looking at entry level from the showroom.
Absolutely true. Yeah, once you get a few of those second-hand ones knocking about.
Probably £2,000 to put your safety equipment in it.
Yeah.
And do the slight modifications. And you've got a phenomenal production class vehicle.
Oh, well spotted, Will Overton. Hopefully he'll be with us, tell us a little bit about Ultra 4s at some point as well. But Richard Maior Barron, it's been an absolute joy and a delight, Sir Lord, Master of all, the big cheese.
I lost the lordship. During the operation.
Go and check it. I think it's behind that scaffolding. Are you having a bit of work done?
Yeah, you don't want to know what's going on out there.
Is that what's holding you up or the house?
Both.
Listen, Richard, it's been
Bruce around here.
No, he's building mine. Get off.
No, wrong.
That's why he hasn't been out racing, actually. Poor boy. He's in that plastic.
Well, I haven't missed him, I must admit. And it's always good when you look at the score sheet and think, I've beaten him. I don't know, he hasn't been there, but that's irrelevant.
The fact that he's not even there. Yeah, but hopefully he'll be back out soon enough anyway. But listen, Richard, thank you so much for joining us and trusting us with an interview with you, because we are very, very new to this and learning all the way, and it's a bit seat of the pants and all the rest of it. But we really appreciate you coming on and talking us through a little bit about what the All Drive Club's up to. So events this year, before we go, there's a good, it looks like a calendar's building up very nicely.
Yeah, we've only got one vacant date at the moment, but we've left that so far because we've got options presently for September, and we're looking at those seriously, where we will go. The rest of the season is all in place. As I said, my most exciting part of all of this is the fact that we've got the Freelander Trophy on board, and we've actually captured some fantastic sponsorship for this year as well. And I thank Brian Shakes of Ravenel and Paul Myers of Britpart, and obviously Paul Rowlands of Parr Homes for supporting us and seeing the vision that I'm trying to put in place. A lot of people ask me about my vision and where what I'm trying to go and where I'm going. Well, do you know what? It's ad hoc and how I deal with it, and I know where I'm trying to get to. But please don't try and ask me to explain it. It's very difficult. But these three guys have actually seen what I'm trying to do in our performance over the 12 months past.
Well, very clearly, and I think there's an awful lot of people, respect the work and effort that you've put into it, along with all the other crews. You've got a cracking team there now that support you all the way as well. And like I say, Mike Arthur and the rest of the gang, they're doing a sterling job too. A sterling job.
I couldn't do what I do without all of the guys that, they're not behind me, they're with me. And I make a phone call and Mike Arthur's pad is full of notes and things that I'm looking to try and get done again, and he has to. I can do the negotiations, but then have to pass them all over, and that's what I like doing. I can get the phone numbers for varying people. I can do bits. I can get us involved. I can get the club involved, and then I need to hand it over to strong personal people, and that team's there now. And this committee is strong, and we'll take this club so far forward.
Brilliant
and we will
stuff.
be at the top again one day.
Well, hopefully we'll see you out and about and follow the All Drive Club Championship all the way through the season as well. Not just in the Compsvari side, but the trials side too, and any of the international competitors that go out there and fly the flag for us. So we'll follow you all the way through. But Richard, Maior Barron, thank you so much. And for me, sir, you are doing a sterling job. Just keep it up. It's amazing, and it's brilliant to see the All Drive Club turning its fortunes around again.
Thank you, Diana. You can keep the £10 note now.
Yeah, bless you. We need it here. We need it. Richard, I'll see you the other side of the sign out.
Of club fund, so it doesn't matter.
Careful. And listen, I'll see you the other side of the credits in a mo. Don't go too far.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
And we'll have a gossip then, dear. See you in a mo. So there we are then. Richard, Maior Barron, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back with you next week for an awful lot more news and chat from around off-road motorsport around the world, around the country. It's been lovely to talk to all the people today. John Aston, thank you for telling us all about the British Cross Country Championship. That championship now in very safe hands too. Looking fantastic with a tremendous crew of competitors coming in. And as he said, on the safety side, wonderful to see. Hill Rally Championship, we're going to be following that as well as we go through the season. We've talked about the cars, we've talked about some of the latest news, people coming into it. There's lots more where that's coming from. Any of the other clubs, if you would like to come and chat with us, we'd love to talk to you about how your season's panning out, what you're doing differently, or any of the competitions. Hopefully we'll have Stephanie Hunter telling us from Scottish Land Rover Owners Club very shortly about their recent time trial. We had Young Jasmine and Harmony filming it for us, so we'll have lots more on that and a quick chat and a rundown with it. But from Off-Road Worldwide online, it's for now. We'll catch up with you in a week or so and bring you up to date on everything that's happening as we go into this season for 2019. You still there, boy?
I am.